June 4th, 2024 meeting of the Calvert County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I'd like to ask Pastor Tarpey if she would come forward and give us an invocation.
Good morning. Father, we just welcome your holy presence into this room, Lord. Father, we give this meeting to you, Lord. We thank you for everything that you've done in this county, Lord. We thank you for your provision, your covering, your protection for every leader and resident in this county, Lord. Father, we're just asking that you would come and rule and reign in this meeting, Lord. Father, I'm praying that your kingdom would come, Father. Your will be done, Father, in this meeting as it is in heaven, Lord. Lord, I'm praying, God, as a leader represented here, Father, and every other leader represented in this place, Lord, I'm asking, Lord, that you would continue to lead us and guide us into all truth, Lord. I pray that you would just continue to help us to put things in place and acknowledge things that are a reflection of your heart, your character, and your nature, Father. Lord, I pray, God, that everyone in this county, Father, would grow to know you, Lord. That you would give them the revelation and the understanding that all things were created by you and for you, Lord. May we live unto you, Father, and may you establish whatever you desire to establish in this county, Lord. We give this meeting to you. It's all for you, King. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Well, Pastor Tarpey comes to us from the Revive Church in Prince Frederick, I'm sorry. And Commissioner Hart is very glad to see you show up this morning.
Yes,
A few weeks
I
ago,
am.
the pastor didn't show up, and he had to fill in, so.
Yeah, it's not good.
But what happened after he gave?
Yes,
We
Yeah.
lost power.
Yeah.
first time.
The history of the courthouse.
I've been coming here 10 years. That's the first time it ever happened.
No, it's never happened.
See?
So we're so glad you showed up and the power didn't go off.
I think it was a sign.
It was not a good sign. That's the problem.
Don't let him do that again. Boom.
So, is there any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
None.
I have none. Make a motion to approve and adopt the agenda as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I do have a couple public service announcements this morning. Last week, we lost a very valued county employee, Miss Lori Huron, who passed last Wednesday on May 29th. She was the executive director of Project ECHO. And if you don't know about ECHO, it's an organization that provides hope to the homeless here in Calvert County. She was the house manager and executive director of Project ECHO for 30 years. She worked very hard. And ironically, she sent us a letter last week that we received the day before she passed with some suggestions on how to improve the state of the homeless here in Calvert County. So it was very sudden, untimely, and we just want to send our sympathy out to her family. She was a great addition to the community here in Calvert County, and she's going to be missed greatly. In lieu of flowers, they are asking for donations to Project ECHO, and tomorrow there's going to be at Jefferson Patterson Park from 1 to 4, there's going to be an opportunity to greet the family and express your condolences. So just a great county employee and citizen that we're going to miss. Also, we are still accepting applications until Friday for the Student Safety and Wellbeing Advisory Committee. So if you're interested, you have until Friday to get your applications in. And also, the animal shelter here, the Linda Kelly Animal Shelter, is at capacity. So whenever that happens, they waive all adoption fees for any animal over a year old. So if you're interested, now is a good opportunity because sometimes those adoption fees can be a little pricey. So here's an opportunity to do some good and adopt an animal. So those are the only public service announcements I have today. That brings us to proclamations, and we only have one today for Safety Month. Commissioner Ireland.
So who do we have? Come on up,
Ellen Simpson, risk manager.
Yep. Susan Landale.
Michelle Langham, I'm the Risk Management Specialist.
Good morning, Jamie Angus, Risk Management Assistant.
Dan Baker, Safety Officer.
Dan, can you please tell me what you do, sir?
I am the Safety Officer for Calvert County Government. I do all the building safety analysis for Calvert County. I'm also the dock master at the Waterman's Wharf in Solomons. I go around the county, also teach first aid and CPR to all the county employees. It's around 140, 150 employees every year. So over the 7-year period, it's almost 1,000 employees that have taken first aid and CPR in Calvert County.
All right, and the history with Legit, if you would touch on that.
The history of Legit,
With our relationship with Legit.
we work with Legit on all of our insurance and plus all of our buildings. Also, Legit also has a learning platform that we use as well with Legit.
So all our training goes through Legit and helps us with our insurance?
Not all of it, but some of it goes through Legit. But all of the training helps us all the way around, even with our workers' comp, not having injured workers, the money that we save in man hours.
Correct, that's where I wanted to go. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
You come up now.
You're relieved.
Okay, so Danny took care of everything that I had to say, so without further ado, we're going to read the proclamation. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Calvert County desires to recognize the benefits of fostering a strong safety culture for all county employees and for all citizens. And whereas the greatest assets of the county are its employees and its citizens. And whereas each year more than 4 million workers suffer job-related injuries or illnesses and over 4,000 Americans die in work-related incidents affecting not only the hurt workers and families, but also negatively affecting the business and the local economy. And whereas preventable injuries are the 4th leading cause of death in the United States, according to the National Safety Council. And whereas Calvert County Government's Risk Management and Safety Program will participate in National Safety Month to enhance their commitment to a safe and healthy workplace. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Calvert County that the month of June be known as Safety Month in Calvert County. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Calvert County encourages all employees and citizens to recognize the value of safety in the workplace and at home. Given under our hands and seal this 4th day of June, 2024, signed by all 5 county commissioners. And Danny, do you have a grandson that might have a birthday today?
Yes.
Okay.
Today is Wesley's birthday.
All right. Happy birthday, Wesley.
Catherine said we're staying up.
All right, so you can scooch down a little bit. Yep, we'll put you right in the middle. Yep, scooch, scooch, scooch.
Scooch.
Perfect. Get your smiles on.
I thought it was just here. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you all for what you do. Absolutely. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is an award from the Department of Human Resources Safety Champion Award. Katie will fix it, or Danny. Yeah.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Ellen Simpson, Risk Manager from the Department of Human Resources. For several years now, we have worked with the Safety Committee to determine a safety champion within our Calvert County government employees. This year, I am thrilled and excited to announce that Kelly Jones from the Office on Aging from the North Beach Senior Center was nominated by Ed Sullivan for all of his safety culture work he does up there. Kelly comes in every morning and before anybody gets there, walks the building to make sure it's safe for the public to come in. He's got several items that needed to be taken care of There was last year a water leak at the senior center that Kelly identified and notified his supervisor and closed off the center so that nobody would be injured when they came in. Kelly every single day makes an effort to keep the citizens safe before they come in, as well as the employees that work there. So please assist us in celebrating Kelly today. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can introduce yourself to the mic.
I'm Kelly Jones, work for Office on Aging and Building and Grounds at the Senior Center.
Dan Baker, Safety Officer. One thing, we're very lucky to have Kelly. I can't be everywhere in the county, and I tell all the county employees, you've got to be a safety officer yourself. And I know up at North Beach Senior Center that we have a safety officer there all the time. Thank you, Kelly.
Perfect, yep, scoot in just a little bit. Perfect, smile. Thank you, congratulations.
So we have one more award, the Employee Recognition Committee, the May 2024 Employee of the Month.
There we go.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ashley Wilkerson, the Awards Coordinator for the Employee Recognitions Committee. Today, we are here to recognize the crime analyst, Dallas Harris, from the Calvert County Sheriff's Office as the May 2024 Employee of the Month. Dallas, would you like to come up?
Hi, I'm Dallas Harris with the Sheriff's Office. I just really appreciate the recognition, and I feel very honored to work for the Sheriff's Office.
All right, Dallas's work is often behind the scenes, developing critical information that helps locate and apprehend suspects involved in some of the most dangerous and serious crimes. Dallas regularly connects with cases with regional ties and brings them to closure through her hard work and dedication. In one of her most recent cases, she positively identified a suspect involved in a multi-state felony fraud investigation. Her efforts directly impact the case closure handled by the Calvert County Sheriff's Office, contributing significantly to the 80%+ closure rate of crimes against persons cases handled by our criminal detectives yearly. It is with great respect that we, the ERC, present crime analyst Dallas Harris with the May 2024 Employee of the Month Award for her exceptional service and dedication.
All right, so I know there's a lot of people that are going to come up and talk on Dallas's behalf. So, Bill, you put her in. Why don't you come up first?
Good morning, Bill Rector with the Calvert County Sheriff's Department. We work hand in hand with Ms. Harris. She works in the same unit as all the detectives, so she serves sort of two roles. One is the sister of the unit, keeping us in line in that sense, but then also working nonstop, after hours, weekends, holidays, all that kind of stuff, answering our phone calls, and she's extremely diligent in her work. A lot of our cases that are currently being adjudicated are a direct result of her hard work, so we're very appreciative of that. She makes us look good, and she's often not recognized. So, thank you.
Come on. Who's next?
Tim Fredman, Calvert County Sheriff's Office. I just want to recommend Dallas and acknowledge her work, her effort. One thing, she made the mistake of telling me this morning, not to embarrass her, but she graduated high school 15 years ago as of today. Just to give you a backstory, she is the epitome of Calvert County. Born and raised in Calvert County, grew up in Lusby, went to high school, Patuxent High, came to the sheriff's office as a temp, and then was employed, worked, got her college degree, and became our analyst, and hasn't looked backwards. She's a phenomenal person, and one thing that I think goes unacknowledged, that she's a civilian, but she touches every serious case that comes through Calvert County in one way or another. She puts her hands on it, puts her eyes on it, and analyzes information for us to do our jobs. So she's amazing.
Who's next?
Morning, Commissioners. I just want to say thank you, Sheriff Cox, for recognizing one of our employees in the awards committee. As you hear Dallas, she answers her phone 24/7 to help us solve major crimes that, as we all know, that come through our surrounding counties to commit crime, and she does a great job, and she contributes well to our sheriff's office and to success and keeping everybody safe that lives here. And I just want to say thank you, Dallas, for the work that you do for the sheriff's office and the citizens of Calvert County. Thank you.
Anybody else? I think that pretty much sums it up. Dallas, outside of everything kind that they said about her, is a very, very wonderful person. I had the opportunity of working with Dallas for several years. I watched her, when she came in as a temp, as Captain Fridman was talking, and watched her work her way up. And Dallas, I'm very proud of you. Congratulations. And guess what I have here for you? Charlie, can you come up? Dad? Come on up.
Yep. Okay, ready? Maybe scooching just a little bit. All right. There he goes. Oh yeah, scooting a little bit.
Scoot, scoot. Nice.
Thank you.
Good job, Dad.
Thank you, Speaker.
How you doing for it? Good. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right.
Happy birthday.
Have a good day.
Good job, Sheriff.
So the next item on the agenda is appointments. We have 2 appointments today. Deputy Administrator Turner.
Good morning, Commissioners. Linda Turner, Deputy County Administrator. We have 2 sets of appointments for your approval this morning. The first is Prince Frederick Architectural Review Committee. Staff recommends the board reappoint Quentin Jones. After this appointment, there will be no vacancies on this committee.
I move that we reappoint Quentin Jones to the Prince Frederick Architectural Review Committee.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next is the Commission on Aging. Staff recommends the board reappoint Charles Harrell, Deborah McKell, and Deanna Carlson to the commission. Following this appointment, these reappointments, there will be 3 vacancies.
I move that we reappoint Charles Harrell, Deborah McCall, and Deanna Carlson to the Commission on Aging.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is consent. We have 2 items under consent today. Item 1, Department of Community Resources Fiscal Year 2025 Area Plan Update. Item 2, Department of Planning and Zoning Historic District Preservation Tax Credit 2024-01 Hampton Historic District. Item 3, Department of Planning and Zoning Historic Preservation District Tax Credit 2019-12 Cherry Hill Historic District. Is there any objections to the items listed under consent today?
None.
I have none.
Chair would entertain a motion to adopt.
Make a motion to adopt the items listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So,
10 minutes. So we have, it's not 10:30, so we can't hold the public hearing yet. The next item on the agenda after the public hearing is the presentation, Office of the County Administrator, Comcast build-out update. Ms. Ashley, how are you this morning?
Good. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
Ashley Staples Reed, Special Projects Program Manager with the Office of the County Administrator's Office. We are doing an update for the Comcast build-out today, and with your permission, I will forego the memo and go right into it.
That'd be fine.
So, up first, we do have just our standard slides that we incorporate in the presentation every time, just to remind the public of our franchise agreement with Comcast. So, listed here, Comcast cable franchises, they do address provisions of the cable television service in exchange for use of the public right-of-way. They do not address broadband or provide exclusive rights, so this is not a non-exclusive or an exclusive agreement. Other agencies can come in, and it does allow the county to regulate cable rates. Current franchise agreement, as outlined by the ordinance that was adopted on December 11th in 2018, it does include a 5% franchise fee that does revert back to the county's general fund. Roughly, it's about $1.6 million annually. It does outline the density requirement, essentially indicating what homes are currently serviceable within that franchise agreement. So homes that are within 300 feet of the distribution line will receive connection at no cost. And then it does provide a cost-sharing formula for individuals who lie outside of that 300 feet. It does expire in 2028, so it is a 10-year franchise agreement. And then per usual, we have our build-out to date timeline. So we do have our since spring of 2021 all the way down to current. So it does kind of outline the grant agreements that we had received from the state and the limitations that you guys had removed in regards to connecting service to individuals that lie outside of that 300 feet. It does also include when we received ARPA funds and when ARPA funds were allocated. We currently have $3.4 million allocated to this build-out from ARPA funds. And then it goes all the way up to May 2023. And we've been working diligently since then to try to get all the individuals that have been identified after that cutoff date of June 30th and getting them service, which I do have in a later slide is how many people we have connected. So here's our funding, just an outline just for reiteration. So we had our phases 1 and 2, which were completed a couple years ago now. So we have our Barstow build-out and then some miscellaneous builds that were predominantly state funded. So we had infrastructure grant funding for that. We did have a county contribution, but it was significantly less to the state funding. And then for our phase 3, which is what we are currently in, we do have a small grant that we were awarded, just under $1 million. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have that $3.4 million earmarked. And then county contributions via franchise fees will be determined. We did have an allocation from FY21 of 1.6, so we do have 1.6 to utilize that has already been reserved in a capital project. So our hope is to continue to get grant funds. We do have a public hearing later to accept a grant in order to further defer the use of general funds beyond what's already been allocated. So phases 1 and 2, this is, again, what was done by 2022 of the fall. This is about 325 homes. This is including the Barstow build-out that we did and then the smaller pockets of infrastructure that we did throughout the county. And then more currently, phase 3, that's what we're working on now. So it's been a year in progress. 390 homes have been identified to connect. I will note it was originally 409. So the discrepancy in that is individuals refused connection. And if they are refusing connection for themselves, but previously had enrolled in the program, they'll be dropped from the program. They can certainly opt out of the program. So there were some individuals that opted out of the program.
Ashley, do we have a lot of right-of-way issues during this project?
Plenty.
Yeah,
So
that's what I
so
figured.
that's the bulk of my presentation for you guys today.
Oh, okay.
Is the easement issues that we're having. So some more analytics for you is that we've completed 243 as of the end of May, which is about just under 40 miles of infrastructure. Majority of it is underground, which is the direction of the board that was established, I believe, a year and a half ago, just for expedition processes. And then approximate cost is $3.5 million. Now, I do kind of want to break that down a little bit for you guys. So that $3.5 million is just the raw costs. So this isn't excluding the homes that have been identified via the state grant that we had received for just under $1 million. So this necessarily isn't the county's obligation, 3.5. It could be a little bit less, and it will be a little bit less, because we also haven't deducted what Comcast does. Because reminder, our franchise agreement with Comcast does do up to 300 feet. So we are paying beyond that 300 feet. So the 3.5 is raw costs. However, I do imagine it's going to be just under 3 million, which is going to potentially use all of the ARPA fund that has been earmarked. So we have 24 in construction now that's in process, and that means they're either in permitting or they actually have the contractors on site doing trenching or boring, anything like that. And then we have the 123 remaining. And that's really what I want to talk to you guys about today in regards to how to proceed with some of the 123. Because the majority of the remaining properties are identified as needing easements to complete the build. It's causing setbacks and predicted timelines, and it's actually encumbering costs. Not necessarily for us, it is encumbering costs for Comcast, so I do want to make that very clear. So the original projection date was at the end of 2023, so we're already 6 months behind schedule. So this is the construction process for the board as well as for the citizens out there. That way you guys can understand how long this process can truly take from start to finish. So the project is identified, and then once that project is identified, we'll have surveyors on site. Then they'll conduct a design in regards to where they'll lay the infrastructure. They have to be mindful of the current utilities that are in there, and as well as right-of-ways and things like that. So once they have done a design, they identify if an easement is needed, either from a neighboring property, multiple neighboring properties, or from the homeowner themselves. I do have an asterisk down there because permitting and easement requirements do, vary from home to home, and it can actually cause the delays there. So one project can take 3 weeks, one project can take 4 months.
Actually, originally when we walked down this road, they were talking about, if they couldn't get the easement, they would have to bounce to a pole, maybe adjacent thing. But then that required, was they Verizon lines, I believe? I know, I guess Smecco, Verizon, there was a few players in all this. How's that? Is everybody playing well in the sandbox, I guess is what I'm
So our
asking?
utility companies are playing well, absolutely.
Okay.
So the aerial poles are owned by Smecco and BG&E respectively, where they provide service. And what we would do is do a permit application, a pole permit application, and they are very good with Comcast when it comes to that, reviewing them and approving them. There are some delays with that process too, which is what we conveyed to the board over a year and a half ago, which is led to the decision to go underground, because theoretically a pole permit application can take 6 months, especially if the pole is identified as needing to be replaced at that time. So it definitely can slow down that process too if we go back to aerial. So once permits and easements have been obtained, the construction begins, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're released and ready to be serviced once that construction is completed. So the point between 6 and 7 is where we do power supply authorizations and checks and things like that, inspections, and then we'll release the project as serviceable, and then the homeowner can call Comcast and sign up for service. So it is a process. So for individuals that are out there regarding how do they find updates, how do they check to see where they are currently with their home, you can go to the county's website. And we do have the Comcast build out towards the bottom of the homepage. And then you can access the Comcast extension map, which has a dot for every address that has been identified. And then you can actually expand on that information to show where we're at, what the projected timeline is. This is going to be updated pending the public hearing that we're going to have later on this afternoon in regards to a potential grant that we could receive. So we'll talk about that a little bit further in regards to maybe doing some additions to the homepage. But truly what the update is for today is our easement issues that we're having. So of those over 123 homes that we have, a lot of them are due to easement issues for why they haven't been completed yet. So one denied easement can affect a whole project. Because, mind you, it's not always just the homeowner that needs to sign an easement. It could be their neighbors. It could be multiple neighbors. And sometimes those neighbors already have Comcast because they are in the distribution 300 feet, but their neighbor isn't. So redesign options are explored when easements are denied to connect the requesting resident. Design isn't always possible, and a redesign may also need easements. So unfortunately, if an aerial pole resides on a person's property and it's not in the right-of-way, an easement is still needed because that pole resides on that person's property. So we find a lot of hurdles in regards to these easements. And a lot of it is an educational piece because a lot of individuals don't understand that it's a different easement comparative to a utility easement. Comcast cannot utilize SMECO's easements. They have to have their own. And that's because SMECO and BG&E are utilities, whereas Comcast is a communication service. So they have to have their own easement.
So if an easement is not granted to another person, you're dead in the water.
Pretty much.
Right, that stops it.
And we'll try redesign, and we'll do outreach, and we'll do contacts, and see, again, if it's just a matter of they have questions, or they don't understand what the implications are for the easement. It's still the individual's property, it's just you're allowing Comcast the right to go on to a certain part to service the line work. And people think that they're relinquishing a part of their property, and it's just providing access.
Thank you.
So easement requests can become costly. As I've mentioned, it's for Comcast, it's not necessarily for the county, but there are multiple attempts from Comcast and the easement company that they utilize. So they typically do 3 attempts, and it's all via mail, and it's by UPS, and they utilize signature after the first attempt. So they can incur cost up to over $50 for one singular easement if 3 attempts are made. So just to kind of reflect on how this can actually start to accrue costs. But this does not include staff time to research deed, plots, designs, and homeowners' information. So this is just the raw cost in regards to the paperwork and mailing. They do have staff that does this research. They do enlist my help when possible in regards to reaching out to these citizens who are not responding to easements. It's not necessarily that they're just flat out denying them. A lot of times they just won't respond. So what I'm suggesting is a incremental procedure in regards to our easement problem to potentially remove a home from our list. Unfortunately, we are at a point in time where we can't force somebody to sign an easement, nor do we want to. So there are going to be situations where we have to essentially abandon a project because easements cannot be obtained or redesigns cannot be done. There's a couple of scenarios that we're currently working throughout the county that are in that predicament. I was hoping not to have to get to this point, but I do think a procedural incremental action is needed for us to be able to document that several attempts have been made in order to obtain easements before we remove somebody from the list. Because I know it is the initiative of the board to connect everybody who wants service. Unfortunately, it's just not legally possible in some scenarios. So all of these things here that I've listed, we have done. We just not have done in a record manner. So we haven't recorded when an easement attempt was made and when a notice was sent out, because we didn't think we'd have to get to this point. So my suggested action for the board today is for consideration to do a process in regards to multiple attempts, both by the easement company with Comcast as well as the county in regards to obtaining an easement that is needed for a project. If all attempts are without, results, then we would remove that address from the list and notify the resident.
Actually, have we reached out to the people that want service, but the neighbor is saying no, where maybe they have a relationship with the neighbor?
Yep, absolutely. So from my understanding, Comcast can't technically say, oh, your neighbor's not signing the easement. However, I've called and I said, this is the build, this is the route. We're not able to get to you based on the route because we have a neighbor that's not willing to sign an easement, or we haven't heard back from them. That's truly where the bulk of the issue is that we haven't heard back from them. And that's where I utilize the resident to say, do you have a good relationship with your neighbor? Are they even there? Is it a secondary property for them? Do they have rentals in there? So I try to get some information in regards to that in order to try to get a good mutual understanding to obtain easements.
And what does the easement look like?
So it comes in a UPS 8x11.
What am I signing? If I sign over an easement to you to let you run the
Yep.
line through, what am I letting you do?
Sorry, I was only saying that because people actually throw them away if they don't know what it is.
Sorry.
So it does come in a UPS little envelope, and it's a document. It says easement agreement right on top, and you're essentially allowing Comcast to access your property, not the whole property. It's to where the line work is indicated. So you're granting them access to first install the infrastructure and then service it when needed.
And is that diagram in that easement packet
Correct.
when it's?
Correct.
Thank
So the easement comes with the legal verbiage, and then it comes with an exhibit to what the design is gonna look like, and then any supplemental information as far as deeds or, property documents go.
And generally, they're following the road, right?
Generally, yes.
They're not gonna cut
Not-
across the middle of their yard?
No.
I was gonna bring that up. No, not always.
Not always.
So, like in the cul-de-sacs, you would think, like, common sense down the thing, but sometimes they'll have a box, and I can speak from experience of a box that goes further south. They will wanna, instead of cutting through the asphalt, they'll wanna go through the yard. And there is a move around, but you have to push for it. I watched that fight, I had a nice front row seat to watch that fight for a couple years between some neighbors, and they just wanted to go like a straight line, but it was through the property, because that's, I think, rerunning some of it too.
Absolutely. And I will say, it can happen. It's not a common thing. They typically try to go into the right-of-way that's already established, and then if they do have to encroach onto somebody's property, they try to go along the property line. But the property
They
line.
don't like the asphalt.
Yes, but the problem is the property line can actually be the middle of the yard. So they try to go up the driveway, they try to go alongside the roadway. Sometimes it's not always possible, and especially it's because they can't run directly alongside SMECA lines. They have to be within 18 inches of each other, and that's by just federal regulation.
Do you know off the top of your head, it's 123 homes, how many easements are there? Because there could be an issue where one person's holding up multiple houses.
And that is the case. So there could be one easement that's needed, and it's going to connect 6 homes. So I don't have that specific analytics, but the majority of the 123, there is a easement needed in order to connect them, whether it's an easement that is needed from a neighbor that's already having connection. That is.
And of those, do you know how many of those are non-responsive and how many of those have said no and for whatever
So all of
reason?
them are just non-responsive. So if somebody is just denying, there's only a handful because there's not much we can do after an easement is denied other than redesign. So essentially, we have to abandon that design proposal once somebody has denied an easement. If possible, I'll try to reach out to that individual and see if they have any questions. I haven't always been met with positivity, but I do try to answer questions in regards to, the ramifications of denying the easement, that it's still well and within your right. However, you are denying access to your neighbors, and just to clarify that is what they're doing by denying this easement. But again, it's certainly within their right to deny an easement.
So the bulk of your issues are non-responsive
Correct.
requests for easements?
Correct. And a lot of times, it's because parcels don't have structures on them. So they're going to PO boxes, they're going to, their primary location, because we want to, try to do some trenching on a vacant lot.
But you're using the address from the tax bill, right? So they're
Correct.
getting their tax bill.
Correct,
So they're probably getting the notice, they just,
probably.
yeah. Is that all?
So, yep, that was, so requested action, I just want to get some guidance from you guys in regards to setting in a policy in regards to when to remove somebody from the list based on easement restrictions. And I will say, if you guys do approve the suggested action, we'll start from the beginning. So if we have done 3 attempts to a home already,
You're gonna
Well-
do 3 more.
we'll do 3 more. We'll start from fresh, day one.
And what was the total number, Ashley, now that you're?
123.
What was the total number that have denied the easement?
So the ones that we have just gotten denials from, there's only about 5, and some of that is integrated into the ones that we have dropped off from that original 409. Because what I'm finding is sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes when a neighbor denies an easement, and then the resident who wants the connection is notified, then they'll say, okay, that's fine, then just please remove me from the list. In an effort, I guess, not to have, neighbor rivalry. So we have removed some people from the list because their neighbor denied an easement.
I don't know what else you could do that you not currently doing.
Try not 3 times is.
No, yeah. And I mean, we do site visits, and I'll go out with Comcast and with the subcontractors that Comcast has to try to meet with some of these residents that have questions.
And that's in addition to her making all the phone calls she's making as well, so.
Sometimes it's just no more than you can do.
I'm afraid we're at that point.
Right. And I think what you're suggesting is a good faith effort, and if it fails, put it to rest.
Right. And I will say, we already have a handful of people that want to be integrated into this build-out already who missed the deadline, referencing the public hearing that we're going to have later on this morning. So I would truly like to put forth effort on those homes that are interested.
You're gonna drag this out forever, aren't you?
I'm really trying not to. Really trying not to.
You keep asking for extensions, so. So, well, I don't think the board has any other guidance for you other than to continue doing what you're doing, and if
Okay.
you wanna document that, so you have a record,
Yep.
so if anybody comes back and.
Correct. So yes, I'll begin documenting all of the incremental measures that we're doing. And then we'll send out notices to individuals who we eventually, unfortunately, have to remove from the list due to easements.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
No,
Thank you.
guidance.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Ashley, while you're here, you wanna do your public hearing?
I certainly can.
We need to
Yep.
Yours is gonna be easy.
Yes, ours will be quick. Yes. So joining me is going to be Danielle Russell, Grants Management Specialist for the Office of the County Administrator.
And while Danielle's making her way here, I'll just do the introduction. There are actually 3 public hearings scheduled for today. All the hearings were duly advertised, and a certificate of publication is made part of the record for each hearing. Citizens were invited to provide comment on any or all of the hearings after the presentation is concluded. Anyone here in person must sign in on the sign-in sheets to my right for the respective hearing that they wish to testify.
So we're going to have a hearing on Budget Amendment 2024-477 and a grant agreement for funding to connect certain properties to broadband. I will read the memo. Background. A public hearing is scheduled to present and receive public comment on Budget Amendment BA 2024-000477 to accept funding from the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, Office of Statewide Broadband. Hold on, sorry, I ran.
That's okay.
For defraying the cost of constructing connections from existing networks to the residences of Calvert County through the Connect Maryland Homestretch for Difficult-to-Serve Properties program. This hearing will be held on Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, at 10:30 a.m. in the Calvert County Board of County Commissioners hearing room at the Circuit Courthouse. Calvert County government, in partnership with Comcast Cable Communications LLC, submitted a response to the Connect Maryland fiscal year 2024 Homestretch Difficult-to-Serve Properties Notice of Funding Opportunity issued by the Office of Statewide Broadband. Based on the award, 137 residences will receive connection at a total cost of $2.2 million. If individual connections are less than the maximum cost, the number of connected residents will increase. These are middle and last mile residents located in the county's most rural areas. The grant award does require the advertisement of an enrollment period for residents. Fiscal impact. The county was awarded $1.1 million from the state to cover a maximum of $8,000 per address. Comcast will fund 33% of the total cost of all approved addresses up to $4,000 per address. The county will fund up to $4,000 per address over the approximate drops, which will be revisable based on assessed need, so that Comcast can accommodate longer lengths depending on the amount of funding available. County funding will come from franchise fees associated with CIP 000032 broadband expansion. Conclusion and recommendation. The Office of the County Administrator requests the Board of County Commissioners conduct a public hearing and, if deemed appropriate based on the record, approve and adopt the proposed resolution and budget amendment VA 2024-477 to accept funding from the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development Office of Statewide Broadband's Connect Maryland Home Stretch for Difficult to Serve Properties program, and authorize the board president to sign all sequential documents. Staff also requests guidance regarding the advertisement timeframe of enrollment for the program. Mr. President, all those who wish to provide.
There are two who have signed up to speak. Joseph Cormier has signed up to speak, and Julie Fuller has signed up to speak. Individuals are asked to identify themselves for the record, and the person speaking for themselves will be given 2 minutes. Those speaking as the designated representative of the group will be given 5.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Joe Cormier. I'll be speaking on behalf of myself today. I just want to say thank you for your continued support of this program. Having connections for all our county's residents is important, not just for school and work. The world is increasingly more connected for job placements and virtual work. Our E911 center relies on this type of thing, and I want to thank Ms. Staples. When I reached out to her for information, she promptly got back to me. My question revolved around the ARPA funds, and she let me know that the timeline for those to be encumbered and used, she's on top of, and it's going to be done the right way so that we don't have to give anything back. So please just support this grant program and keep it going and get everyone connected. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Fuller's indicated that she does not wish to speak on this. There are 2 individuals on virtually. If you use the raise your hand function or press *9 if you've called in to speak. And neither has raised their hand.
So Ashley, to date, other than franchise fees, have there been any general funds expended in this project?
No, sir. And I'd like to keep it that way.
And originally, this project was supposed to be completed when?
At the end of 2023. So we are
Just for
6
the-
months behind.
Just for the record.
Yes, sir.
But, Mr. President, you remember, we were the first people in the water.
We were.
And I don't normally like to jump first. I like to kind of wait and see a little bit, but that one, we jumped in the water and then they all followed behind us, so.
Everybody's in the water right now.
Can't imagine how far out they are.
And I think sometimes when you start these projects, you estimate when you think it could be completed, but you've hit a lot of roadblocks with people not wanting to grant easements and not being responsive, so good job.
And I will say Comcast is stretched then, because they are ISPs in virtually all the jurisdictions, so.
But we got lucky because we got the first shots of that money since we didn't know. I mean, we were ready to just go in because we knew we had to do it.
I am making sure our contractors stay in Calvert.
Very cool.
And part of the reason it's gotten prolonged is because every time we accept another grant, we have to open up, sign up again.
So yes, the grant agreement does require that there is an outreach period. They do not have a restriction on how long it has to be. You guys can make it at your leisure. I do have about 7, 8 individuals that are on standby for when this open enrollment does happen. However, if we don't get that many individuals, we can identify the individuals that we already have and utilize this funding, since they are considered within the parameters of this grant agreement for distance from the distribution line.
So what's your recommendation for sign up?
30 days. We can certainly make it more or less. If we do 30 days, we'll begin advertisement today, and we'll do a closing period on July 5th. So it will be right after the holiday. So just keep that in mind.
And so today is just to apply for the grant.
It's to sign the grant agreement and open the enrollment period, yes.
We applied back in December, so.
Correct.
So the 30 days should be a part of the motion. Mr. County Attorney?
So I believe staff is requesting a motion that the board close the record and approve and adopt resolution and budget adjustment for BA number 2024-000477. Authorize the board president to sign all required documents and leave the open enrollment period open for 30 days.
That's why I asked. I didn't see that part.
I second that.
You want to go through it again, sir?
Yes, sir. And then you could just say so moved.
No, I can read it. I mean,
No, so
move
we're
it.
asking for a motion to approve and adopt budget resolution BA 2024-477, authorize the board president to sign all required documents and have an open enrollment period of 30 days.
So move.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners.
You're welcome, thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't figured out, we do have prepared motions just to make sure we get them legally right. So when we make little changes as we go, then we have to amend those motions. And sometimes we make motions on the fly, so, but the attorney just tries to keep us legal and sufficient, so.
It was incomplete.
I didn't notice the sign up, so. So, I guess that brings us to, public hearing, Department of Finance and Budget, adoption of the FY 2025 operating and capital budget. Director Miller?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So, I'm Bruce Miller, the Director of Finance and Budget, and with me are Dawn Wood and Elizabeth Richmond. We have multiple public hearings scheduled for today. All hearings were duly advertised, and the certificate of publication is made part of the record of each hearing. Citizens were invited to provide comment on any or all of the hearings after each presentation has concluded. Anyone here in person must sign in on the sheet for that hearing. The sign-in sheets are found on the podium next to the attorney. First hearing is on the real estate tax rate. I will start the public hearing advertised to set the real property tax rate at $0.967 per $100 of assessed value. It is estimated that this rate will generate an additional revenue of approximately $5,945,504. The floor has been open for public comment on this hearing. Those attending in person will be invited to speak first. For those joining virtually, please press *9 or use the raise your hand function if you wish to speak. Speakers are asked to state their name and address. Individuals will be allocated 2 minutes. Designated representatives of a group will be allocated 5 minutes. At this time, I will ask Dawn to read the names.
Our first speaker is Joseph Camille.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Joe Cormier, 9201 Sam Owings Place up in Owings. Local government can provide special incentives to achieve certain economic objectives, and the BOCC approved 42% to our biggest business partner to entice them to build out and make the business environment more enticing for other businesses to come into Calvert. The idea is that this new investment will provide new revenue, at least to balance out the loss of that 42%. Has this deal broken even? Can the Department of Economics cite a list of investments in the county directly related to this tax credit? And where are we in negotiations? Last week, you said you wouldn't and couldn't leave a dollar on the table, and both parties wanted to sign, but the distance was too great. The same happened with CCPS, your single largest employer by head count, and the teachers union and support staff union. Both sides wanted to sign, but the distance between was too great. The unions, my union, would not leave money on the table to ensure that fellow union members got a step in a COLA, the same 1% afforded to county employees, and the recognition of the ever-increasing responsibilities and duties required by federal and state departments of education. Everyone deserves to live in the community they serve, put food on the table, take care of their health, and put a little bit away for retirement. You know why the school systems asked for increased revenue. You instituted a blueprint committee that met regularly since May of '22. Early childhood pre-K expansion, base salaries, national board certifications, college and career readiness, more guidance and support for middle schoolers, and the accountability and transparency pillars are on top of the 180-day mission to get students from point A to point B. My union brothers and sisters, along with all the working class citizens who voted for you, sheriffs, firefighters, EMS, park rangers, clerical and admin, maintenance and custodial staffs, look to you now for leadership. There is not a printing press in the back of the office, but you do have economic levers that you can adjust. I can live with $50 a month if it means firefighters have the tools and vehicles they need. I can live with $50 a month if it means a first-year teacher gets a mentor and a class size under 30. And I can live with $50 a month if it means pools have lifeguards and the grass is mowed and the water runoff is maintained. Calvert hasn't raised taxes since 2017 and immediately lowered it 3 times since. If not now, when? If not who, then you. Thank you.
Next speaker is Julie Fuller.
Good morning. My name is Julie Fuller. I'm a Calvert County resident. I live in Western Shores. I'm here today as the Vice Chair of the Government Affairs Committee for the Southern Maryland Association of Realtors. It's also known as SMAR. On behalf of our 1,900 members, I would like to share SMAR's view on the proposed increased property taxes here in Calvert. SMAR believes that local governments and municipalities should fund from their existing property and income tax bases those necessary public facilities such as water and sewer, transportation, public safety, and others at a rate that keeps up with our population growth. This proposal amounts to a hefty annual tax increase on homeowners, which comes in as an additional burden as most county residents continue to see higher real estate assessments. Since 2020, Calvert County has seen its median home price grow nearly 20%. Just this past April, the median sold price of a home in Calvert County rose 14.94% year over year, from $435,000 to $500,000 for the first time ever. While there are many reasons to oppose a property tax increase, SMAR is concerned for several notable reasons. One of the most concerning is how raising property taxes can have a negative impact on affordability and the region's desirability. Higher taxes can potentially deter home buyers and potentially decrease property values, both of which can have long-term negative impacts on a government's revenues. As growth has remained minimal over the past several years, the tax base has also grown minimally. Another major concern that we have is the negative impact that raising property taxes can have on seniors and retirees. With inflation skyrocketing for several years, older individuals and those on fixed incomes have experienced financial strain in many aspects of their lives, from the grocery store to the gas pump. This proposed additional tax burden disproportionately impacts property owners and especially hurts those seeking to retire in their own beloved community. As you are aware, property taxes and other taxes on real estate already comprise the largest general fund revenue source for Calvert County. Those taxes account for approximately 42% of the county's fiscal year 25 total budget revenues. Over the last several years, home values have grown at an unhealthy pace nationwide, but especially here in Calvert. A severe shortage of housing inventory is affecting municipalities, counties, and the entire country, creating countless obstacles for those seeking home ownership. Study after study shows that an overwhelming majority of Maryland voters believe the cost to buy and own a home in Maryland is too high,
with roughly 1 out of every 3 people saying they would consider leaving the state due to high housing costs. Calvert County is no stranger to seeing residents move across the bridge to St. Mary's. We do not need to offer any more incentives for Calvert County residents to leave. Now, we do understand how expensive it can be to maintain the county's infrastructure. And we also understand that the General Assembly has put you all in a very tough position. We would like to see the county continue to grow smartly and responsibly with appropriately supported facilities that your residents can use well past our lifetimes. Added taxes at a time of economic strain will only hurt your constituents and ensure that our children and grandchildren will not be able to afford to live in this community that we all love. We ask that you maintain the county's current rate of 92.7 cents per $100 of assessment and save homeowners from an additional tax burden. We are available for assistance, and any questions you have may be directed to our offices at SMAR. Thank you for your time and your attention today and for your service.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sarah Weems, and she's declined to speak.
We do have one caller who's joined us since the presentation began. Caller, last 4 digits, 4444. If you wish to speak on the real property tax rate public hearing, please press star 9. So there's no one online who's raised their hand to speak.
With that, Mr. President, all those who wish to speak have spoken. Staff asks for a motion to close the record.
Mr. President, ready for the motion?
Yes, sir.
I move that we close the record.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that we close the record. Is there any discussion on that motion?
None.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion-
Opposed.
We have one opposed. Motion carries.
Second hearing is on the income tax. A hearing on the income tax rate at 3.2% was duly advertised. It is estimated that this rate will generate an additional revenue of approximately $3.6 million. The floor has been open for public comment on this hearing. Those attending in person will be invited to speak first. For those joining virtually, please press star 9 or use the raise your hand function if you wish to speak. Speakers are asked to state their name and address. Individuals will be allocated 2 minutes. Designated representatives of a group will be allocated 5 minutes. At this time, Dawn will read the names.
Joseph Cormier.
Individual.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Joe Cormier, 9201 Sam Owings Place, Owings, Maryland. Again, I just want to speak on, I'm not going to read the same thing I just read, but I do want to thank our budget development team. I've been emailing them, it feels like nonstop, and they've been great with their responses. Support staff really did a great job putting that budget book together. All our staff, union and non-union, they deserve a living wage, and they deserve those steps and COLAs, and I know that it's hard, and I know you don't want to, and I know that there are 100 reasons not to, but we have to make hard decisions in this year. When the state's coming down and says you have to do X, Y, and Z, we can push back as hard as we can, but eventually the tide's going to rise. So I hope that we are able to come to a solution for this in the future so that the state, stops sending unfunded mandates down here and gives us the funding that we need. It's just unsustainable, I agree, but we got to get through this year and make sure that all of our staff are taken care of, and I don't want to see any cuts to staffing. Going through the budget, there were a lot of requests for budget or janitorial maintenance and mechanics, things like that, and if we let our infrastructure fail, it's going to cost us more to replace it. And looking at that CIP budget, HVAC shows up about 147 times in the budget document. From county government to school systems to the jail, we just, we need to figure out a way to do that in a way that makes sense. So I appreciate all the time and effort that the budget staff have put in. I know it's a team effort from all of the different department heads and their staff, so thank you to county staff for all they do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last speaker is Sarah Weems.
Is as an individual?
As an individual, yes. Good evening, Commissioners and fellow community members. My name is Sarah Weems, 240 Sharon Drive, Lusby, Maryland, and I'm here to express my concern regarding the proposed increase in local taxes from 3% to 3.2%. This may seem like a small change. It is the working class families who will feel the most impact. In times when inflation and interest rates are already out of control, adding additional financial pressure on our community is simply not the right move. These nickel and dime increases might appear insignificant on paper, but can accumulate and become a significant burden for those already struggling to make ends meet. Our community is resilient and strong, but we must remember that every additional cost imposed on our families can lead to difficult decisions about basic needs. Groceries, housing, daycare, and healthcare are all getting more expensive, and adding more to that burden, in my view, is unreasonable. I urge the Commissioners to reconsider this tax increase and look for alternative solutions that don't place additional strain on the working families that are the backbone of our communities. We need to support them, not add to the burdens. Furthermore, I must point out that this public hearing, which impacts our entire community, has been scheduled at a highly inconvenient time and location. Many working families are unable to attend to these due to these constraints. I hope in the future you will consider holding such important meetings after regular business hours and at a venue with ample parking to ensure broader community participation. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. And no one online has raised their hand.
Mr. President, all those who wish to speak have spoken. Staff asks for a motion to close the record.
Make a motion to close the record.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to close the record. Is there any discussion on that motion? None. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed. Motion carries.
All right, sir. Next, a hearing on the Commissioner's operating and capital budget was duly advertised and conducted on Thursday, May 16th. The record was left open through the close of business yesterday, June 3rd, and all comments received have been provided to the board. At this time, Don will read the memo to you.
Background. Two public hearings were conducted, the first on March 19th, 2024, and the second on May 16th, 2024, to present and receive public comment on the staff recommended budget and the county commissioner's budget for fiscal year FY 2025. Discussion. The FY 2025 general fund operating budget totals $379,536,626 and includes a planned surplus of $2.9 million, making it a balanced budget. Compared to the FY 2025 adopted general fund budget, the sources of funds have decreased by approximately $1 million. This decrease is primarily due to reductions in tax payments from the two public utilities and the elimination of using prior year fund balance. However, these reductions were partially offset by increases to property taxes, income taxes, recordation taxes, payment of the water and sewer loan note, and new indirect allocations from other funds. The FY 2025 budget continues to focus on the county's core services, including funding for education and public safety, while maintaining a high level of service to our community. In the FY 2025 budget process, the county deployed various strategies to combat declining revenues and rising operational expenses to provide services. This resulted in a lower general fund appropriation than in the prior fiscal year. Funding towards education remains a priority for the county, accounting for approximately 40% of the general fund operating budget. The current allocation for education operations is $152 million as compared to $154 million in FY 2024. The FY 2025 budget amount is calculated using the state's maintenance of effort formula, which is $2.5 million less than the funding provided in FY 2024. There are 9 new full-time equivalents in this budget, 7 of which are for public safety, including 4 for the sheriff's office. The remaining positions are with the Department of Public Works, This budget includes one salary step and a 1% cost of living adjustment for county employees. The FY 2025 general fund operating budget has increased by $3,436,909 since the public hearing held on May 16, 2024. We have an attachment A, which outlines the changes, which I'll read off. It is titled FY 2025 General Fund Changes from Commissioners to Adopted. Changes in revenues were real estate tax increase of $5,945,504, income tax increase at $3.6 million, water and sewer loan note at $5.4 million, and removing use of unassigned fund balance at $11,508,595,000, making the total general fund revenues $3,436,909,000. I'm sorry, increase. Changes in expenditures was a decrease to Board of Education of $2,469,199, a step and 1% COLA of $2,586,746, transfers to other funds, $413,814, planned surplus at $2,905,548, making total general fund expenditures at $3,436,909,000. The fiscal impact is the tax-supported general fund budget is decreasing by 0.29% as compared to the prior year. Conclusion and recommendation. Staff recommends that the board close the record and approve and sign the resolution adopting the FY 2025 budget and related tax rates and fees.
Mr. President, all those who wish to provide comments have had an opportunity to do so. Staff asks for a motion to close the record and adopt and approve the fiscal year 25 operating and capital budgets with the rates, fines, and fees set forth therein. And a budget with conditional finance reserve appropriation. A motion has been prepared for your consideration. Mr. President.
So before we do that, how much did you cut out of our budget? Remind me again, please.
Gross amount was $10 million.
And on a percentage basis, what does that amount to? Just rough, just
About 3%, I think.
3%. Don't be shy.
I hate throwing out numbers and that.
Yeah, it's okay. I was just trying to get a feel for.
He's going to calculate it.
I think you're close, Bruce.
$2.6%,
2.6.
close to 3.
It's pretty close.
You ready for a
Any other-
motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I move that we close the record and approve and adopt the fiscal year 2025 operating and capital budgets as submitted, with a 1% COLA for county pay scales and a single merit step for eligible employees, and adopting and setting the tax rates, fines, and fees being effective as reflected in the resolutions presented for each. I further move that we set the Board of Education's budget appropriation within the major categories as our County Director of Finance and Budget deems appropriate at maintenance of effort, including the use of $22,500,000 of its existing fund balance to offset state cuts, and an additional use of $6,500,000 of the Board of Education's existing fund balance matched with an education reserve fund of county appropriations, which will include the Board of Education's fiscal year 2024 unexpended funds in the amount of $3,500,000 to be held by the county in financial reserve for the use of the Board of Education in fiscal year 2025 upon the following conditions. 1, honoring the negotiated contracts with the Calvert Education Association and the Calvert Association of Educational Support Staff. 2, adopts a 3% cut across the board with no reduction in workforce, layoffs, or similar actions without the consent of the Board of County Commissioners. 3, continued discussions among staff leadership regarding budgetary matters, with detailed information and access reasonably requested by the county's leadership team. 4, no new, renewal, or extension of existing employment or personnel service contracts or similar until the Board of Education seats subject to election this year are elected and sworn in.
I second.
Discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. So I support my fellow commissioners in a lot of this document. Unfortunately, in adopting a budget, it's an all or none. You can't pick or choose through it. None of it is light. I don't believe there's anybody up here that's got an appetite to raise taxes or see anything hurt or what have you. Under no circumstances should we ever lose a teacher. I believe it was 8 years ago, 7 years ago, I'm in New York, and we had just put in the funding formula. 2 different bond agencies, they know your budget better than you. Trust me, they do. Both of them said, you know, we don't understand the funding formula, it's pretty aggressive. And I said, sir, to kind of put it in your terms, where you deal in commodities, there is a shortage of educators. And it is much more expensive to watch them walk out the door and to try to hire than to maintain what you have. I said, so, and both understood that. And obviously, we're now into another phase with Blueprint. So even that funding formula then wouldn't even apply today. So with what Commissioner Grasso just read, there's absolutely no way I can condone losing any school personnel whatsoever. But we all have our own thoughts how to get from A to B. We've seen, we had an all-volunteer EMT force for the longest time. We don't have that anymore. I believe it's close to $1 million every time we put one on the field with an ambulance and everything. Most jurisdictions have adopted a public safety tax, and that's something that I want to explore in the future, and I'll tell you why. I think the ambulance costs the same going to anybody's house. I don't believe that if the guy lives on the hill, it costs more to go there than the guy lives at the bottom of the hill. But these are extremely trying times financially for folks. Every day I watch people walk out of grocery stores complaining of what it costs to feed their family. And I am not saying anybody's right or wrong, but I've never seen the economy be in the mess that it is today. On a personal note, me and my wife lost our homeowners insurance because the company pulled out of Maryland and said these SDAT assessments were insane. You know, these houses aren't worth what they're being assessed at, and we had to find other insurance which cost us more. So being that those are up, I believe state of Maryland's going to enact October 1st It's gonna be the beginning of the Time to Care Act, I believe, which is 0.45% of everyone's paycheck. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's what I was reading. With that, an increase in property taxes and in payroll tax, I know a smart business would not use their operating funds, would not use fund balance. But with the circumstances we're dealing now, my belief would be to use fund balance this year and potentially into maybe the following year. And I didn't come up with that on my own. When I got here, that's what was done waiting on the Dominion money. So I know it's not sustainable, but I believe as we are finding out what Blueprint cost, or seeing the new deck of cards we're dealing with, I told you a couple weeks ago I needed more time. I believe exploring like a public safety tax and identifying some individual things of things that you use. I'm a big fan of, if you use it, you pay for it. But the senior that's sitting on a fixed income probably isn't using the same services I am. So, and like I say, this is nothing against my fellow commissioners. I completely support the methods they have used. Going about it is just a difference of opinion, is all. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Any other discussion?
I do have a comment, Mr. President. With the motion that Commissioner Grasso just gave us, you know, no one expected the state to cut us $22.5 million, but it happened. The school board came back to us a couple times with a couple different asks, and I think it was $16 million at the final proposal. And this meets in the middle. By reducing their budget by 3%, is going to evaluate at $4.5 million, giving them $3.5 million. That's $8 million. Using their prior fund balance of $8 million is going to get that $16 million. Not to include a 24 fund balance that they're going to get in the near future. So I think this is meeting in the middle. We have to look after our teachers, our support staff, our administrators. We must do more for them. So I just think this is a good meeting. Nobody wants to raise taxes. But I just think this is a meeting in the middle. We have to look after our schools and our kids. Thank you, Mr. President.
I agree with Commissioner Cox. Well said.
We've inherited several issues that appear to be beyond our control. We're trying our best to resolve these issues. And looking forward, we realize that our deficit next year will be even more significant than what we're dealing with this year. There are many unknowns out here, as there always are. However, if we don't take steps now to try to reduce the gap for next year, this hole is not going to do anything but get deeper and deeper, and it's going to be harder to get out of. It is our intent to ensure that our educators and support staff do not get laid off or furloughed and receive the pay mandated by Maryland's Blueprint. It's also imperative that we retain our county employees, sheriff's office personnel, as that's a challenge in and of itself to retain and recruit individuals. We've also been met with the challenges of increasing our paid EMS, as was already discussed. Converting our volunteer system to paid paramedics has been no cheap undertaking. As I've said, it's about $1 million to put each individual crew into a house or into a station with that ambulance. The public safety, you can't put a price tag on it, folks. I'm sorry, you can't, and especially healthcare. I mean, that ambulance is going to be there to get you to the hospital or get a loved one to the hospital to save their life. Unfortunately, it couldn't come at a worse time during that conversion process. We'll continue to make cuts where possible and to try to improve the overall efficiency and effectiveness of our county government. Lastly, I want to take a moment to thank our county staff, and I also want to take a moment to thank all the citizens. We had a lot of public comment, a lot of emails, a lot of text messages, a lot of phone calls. You might want to look at this, you might want to look at that. I want to take the time to thank those individuals who took their time to be there to do that as well. That's all I have.
So, ladies and gentlemen, none of this is fun or easy. And I do, too, want to thank staff. We've worked harder on this budget than any budget I've been involved in. I want to thank Dr. Townsell, who's in the audience today, and his staff, because we've been meeting for 3 months trying to work through all of our issues. And, you know, while, as Commissioner Hart said, while I don't agree with everything that we've had to do this year, it's, you know, we're a team here and, you know, we're going to pass a budget and just try to work through this. But what I will say is that, you know, I hope that in the motion that was presented, it lays out some pretty tough guidelines, but I think that the underlying message is that we're not going to let the school system fail. We can amend this budget at any point in time that it's deemed necessary to fill holes. I think that, I hope that's the message that comes, that people get out of this, that the board is going to continue to work together with Dr. Townsend and his team, and we're going to fill those holes. And we're just trying to send the message that, you know, we support staff and the teachers and the support staff, and that, you know, we don't want to see them let go because of budget issues. But just to get this budget balanced and out the door, you know, some tough decisions have to be made, but we'll do what we have to do throughout the rest of this year, working together to make sure that the school system is successful. And, you know, we understand that how hard it is. You know, it weighs on all of us. You know, there are 4,000 kids in the school system getting free lunch because of the income levels of their families. We understand that this tax increases that we proposed are going to be extremely hard on them, extremely. But, you know, we got an email over the weekend from a county citizen, said, you know, just give the school system whatever they need, and with a small tax increase, it'll all work out. And I did respond to her in pretty explicit detail of what that little tax increase would actually look like. And, you know, I've said this at every public hearing, you know, it's not a little increase. You know, we've, in this motion, you know, there are some pretty tight guidelines on the Board of Education because, you know, in order to generate $16 million, as you just heard, it would triple, at least triple the increase that we proposed today. So it's not $150, it's $500 or $600, and that's for the average homeowner. You know, that's not, and those individuals on free lunches, they may not be living in an average home, but they're going to see an increase that they can't afford. So, you know, this weighs really heavy on all of us, and I understand that, you know, the board's not going to be very happy with this action today, but I can assure you that this board is not going to let you fail. And as I've said many times, we can amend this budget at any point in time, and we'll do what we need to have to do. But I've said enough.
I think with this budget, we have a collaborative effort with the BOE and Dr. Townsend. We have a roadmap for success. This motion starts that. It prevents teachers from being laid off. And like the rest of my commissioners said, we're not going to see teachers laid off. We're not going to see people fired. This proposal gets us to where we spoke to Dr. Townsend and his staff about. Our staff is working diligently to collaboratively to determine what we can do to have success. And we're going to continue that. But we've made a lot of hard decisions. We've had a lot of anxiety. It has been so hard. Thank you to staff. Thank you to your staff. Everybody's pitched in, and we're going to get through this. Thank you all very much.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain?
So we have one abstention. And the motion passes. Does that conclude our public hearings?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess that brings us to public comment. Mr. County Attorney?
Thank you, sir. The board adopted a resolution in 1989 intending to maintain the order and decorum of the governmental process. A copy is found here to my right. Persons are welcome to address the Board of County Commissioners on any matter germane to the business of county government. Those addressing the board shall not be uncivil, rude, vulgar, profane, or otherwise disruptive to the conduct of the board's business. All speakers must identify themselves, and whether speaking as an individual will be allocated 2 minutes, or as the designated spokesperson of a group where you'll be allocated 5. For those attending virtually, if you wish to speak, please press star 9 or use the raise your hand function. The Ethics Commission's asked that we remind speakers that lobbyists include those who seek to influence public policy, and lobbyists must register in advance. Is there anyone in the room?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's Joe Cormier, and I'm going to speak on behalf of myself today. Yesterday, I attended the Maryland Center for School Safety Sub-Cabinet Advisory Board. It was a great meeting. We had a lot of students come on there and share the SASS, the Student Advocate for School Safety group, and we're going to share that with Ms. Turner and with the school board and try and get some SAS groups at our high schools and middle schools and elementary schools. I'm going to have to go back and listen to Ms. Grasso's motion again to get the specifics. I don't know if that got run by the county attorney first. It seems like the county commissioners are putting a lot of regulations on the money and making the Board of Ed a lame duck term, and I don't know if that's within your purview, with all due respect. So I would hope that when you created that motion, you did it with the agreement of the Board of Ed, as you've been meeting with them on and off, and you've been having Blueprint Committee meetings since May of '22, so it shouldn't be a surprise why all these things are being raised, and to ask for a 3% cut across the board when they've already been cutting for the last couple of years. They're the biggest employer in the county. They're the only employer in the county that touches 1,400 plus or 14,000 plus kids, 180 days plus a year. And the biggest part of our budget is staff. So when you say cut 3% across the board, but don't have any cuts for staff or teachers or support staff, I don't know how those two things equal out. So I hope that we continue to work together, and the Board of Ed doesn't meet until 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now. So again, when one board meets once a week and one board meets once a month, it's hard to get that cooperation. So I hope that Dr. Townsell and President White were involved in that motion and that decision, and that they continue to have those positive conversations, that you keep the citizens, the parents, the guardians involved. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Caller, last 4 digits, 4444. Please press star 6 to unmute yourself. Identify yourself and whether speaking as an individual or the designated representative of a group.
Dawn Level, individual. Hello, Commissioners. You just approved the FY 2025 budget. Do you know what you approved? There are no dollar amounts nor dates in the resolution. You approved draft resolutions. Will a citizen understand the budget and be able to use it as a reference in the future, since the budget is a financial plan for the year? You approved an unbalanced capital improvement program according to the budget that is attached. The summary does not match or equal the detail. What projects were changed, delayed, or removed? I can't determine it from the attached approved budget. What about the changes to water and sewer rates? Were they changed? None of these increases have been mentioned in public legal announcements, and they are not included in the budget you just approved. Again, where are the actuals? I have asked this question repeatedly since March. Why do you choose not to answer this question on camera? Why did your budget increase over $235,000? Why did Finance and Budget increase the auditing and related services budget by over $246,000? These equal almost a $500,000 increase to the budget, but yet you don't think it is a significant amount to explain why to the citizens when you are raising both income and property taxes? Why are the corresponding decreases to the indirect charges for services as reflected on page 41? Why don't you describe the services that are provided to other funds? How will this affect the transfers from the general fund to these funds? By the way, $154 million minus $152 million does not equal $2.5 million. Is this a sample of the math you used to create this budget? Is this how you are skewing the numbers to suit your needs? You state over and over that you were transparent. How is this budget transparent when most of the data is wrong or outdated? How is this budget prudent? You have not even told the citizens how much the combined tax increases are going to impact them. Again, I repeat myself and ask, how are you fulfilling your promise in your letter to the citizens with this budget to be prudent, responsible, transparent, and manageable? Again, what have you approved? Shame on you. Thank you.
There are no other speakers, Mr. President.
Thank you. That brings us to Commissioner reports. Commissioner Hart.
Oh, okay, let me go first.
I changed it up once.
There you go. Make sure I'm still awake over
That's
here?
right.
Okay, I was just checking. There's no negativity and gloom and doom in the room, so I do want to tell you, it's a good story, and hear it out to the end. So you know how much I love my guys down at PAX down there and all the sports teams, but I've got to really know a lot of those kids from the time they were playing Little League ball all the way up and follow them. And I tell you, I'm so proud of them. You know, everything runs together. Please don't kill me on dates, but I want to say it was last Thursday at the semifinal game. I believe it was Middletown, 2+ hours away. Is that right, Doc? Was it Middletown? Is that where they went? Middleton? Yeah. And they'd gone to school. They're there, 7 o'clock in the morning, and went to school all day. 2+ hour ride out there. Now that team magically didn't have to go nowhere. I'm not even going to get into the politics of all that stuff because I'll just get upset. But anyhow, these kids played 13 innings. Now, a high school ball game is 7. They played 13 innings. And we lost 2-1. And this group has been playing together since little guys all the way through. You know, we've been steady knocking on that door. They didn't get back to the school till well after midnight. And on the next day, there's a lot of kids back out on that field practicing again, even though baseball season isn't until next year. And I just want to tell you, we're I believe, the 3rd smallest jurisdiction in the state. Patuxent is the smallest high school in this county. And you want to talk about, you know, we hear all the negative out here because, you know what the news says, if it bleeds, it leads. You know, remember Don Henley with the song Dirty Laundry. You know, these kids got character, man. And these coaches and these teachers and that staff, they're first class. I watched them interact with those kids. They rode on the bus with them. Their heart broke just as much as those kids. They love those kids. And I tell you what, as an adult in life, you know, sometimes you look for a barometer, a moral barometer, and you start thinking, you know, we all believe that we walked 12 miles through ice and snow just to get to school because we wanted to get there. You know, we were all kids, and we all made mistakes. And then you see what those kids did. And my hat's just off to them. I mean, I just think, you know, for some reason, it's always gloom and doom. And I tell you, a lot of good comes out every day. And that's just a story, you know. We don't like to talk about it unless you win. You got to win. And those kids are winners all day long. I tell you what, I don't know how many adults do that. And I just think the world of those kids. And also on a sad note, we lost Tilden Gardner this week. He lifelong resident. He's a Marine, worked at the sheriff's office for years, and a good family man. One of those guys shakes your hand, looks you in the eye. One of those type guys. I have a lot of respect for Tilden, and my deepest condolences to him and his family.
Thank you. Commissioner Grasso?
Had several meetings this week, but one I want to highlight is Cornerstone. We met with the president and CEO, Carrie Guthrie. It's a behavioral health organization, and they like to keep kids in their homes and out of the foster care. I mean, they serve a vast array of citizens within the county, and we were talking about a marketing push to make the community more aware of what they offer. So it could be a good, well, it is a good resource for the school system, for the hospital, et cetera. So welcome to the neighborhood, and we're glad to have them.
Thank you. Commissioner Cox?
Thank you, Mr. President. Attended Parks and Rec Community Day at Holling Point Park. was a nice event down there, and also on Sunday, Patterson Park, Children's Day on the Farm. That was very well attended, very nice to see all the kids out and running around and playing. That was well attended. And one last thing, happy birthday to my mother's. My mom's birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Singing, Katie? Maybe
That's
next
all
time.
I have, Mr. President.
Commissioner Ireland?
I was out of town last week, so I have nothing to report other than it was a great feeling to come across the county line to get back home. Children's Day on the Farm, as Commissioner Cox said, was great. A lot of tractors, kids were climbing all over. They had a tractor parade. Great food, great vendors, arts and crafts for the kids to do. We have graduations this week. Just want to say congratulations to all the graduates and good luck in your next endeavors. And most importantly, whatever you do, just please make good decisions. Thank you.
Good luck. Just want to remind everybody, we're still accepting applications for the Student Safety and Wellbeing Advisory Committee until this Friday, and that the animal shelter has waived all fees for any animal over a year old due to their overcapacity. That's all I have today.
Would you like a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
I move to recess to executive session pursuant to general provisions, Articles Sections 3-305B1I, to discuss personnel matters.
Second.
Have a motion and a second that we go into executive session. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.